Hey, what's going on, guys? Joe McCall here, and got a great episode. This is different than my normal real estate investing podcast that I'm doing, but this is going to be really relevant to some of you guys. Some of you may be like, Joe's talking about religion, blah, blah, blah. Every once in a while, once or twice a year, I talk about my faith. I talk about the Lord. I'm very active in my church, and I love our church. I love the friends and the family that we have there in our church. Love the pastors, and it's just an amazing place. And so, being a believer, being a Christian, faith is really, really important to me. And so, I wanted to do a little bit different podcast episode this time, and we're going to talk about a little bit about faith. I've got a good friend who goes to our church, who just wrote a book called Wild Expectance, and his name is Bryan Citrin. And we're going to be talking about starting to live your life how God designed it. And he's got a great story. I don't even know if it's released yet. We'll talk to him when he gets on here, but his name is Bryan Citrin. He's a good friend of mine. And this does relate to entrepreneurship, okay? Because Bryan's got an amazing story, and he's also a digital marketer who does advertising agency services to chiropractors. And he's made a lot of money in the business world, which helps support his Christian ministry. And that's what I want to talk about. If you guys remember, I don't know if any of you all remember, but back about 10 years ago, I interviewed a couple different people who were missionaries in Africa, and they were using real estate to support themselves while they lived in Africa doing missions work. And it's always been something really near and dear to my heart, because there's a lot of you guys that are watching this or listening to these podcasts and thinking, man, I want to serve somewhere. Maybe it's your church, local church. Maybe it's you want to be a missionary in some third world country, or maybe you feel called to do something else, but you feel like you're stuck with your job and you can't, you want that freedom to be able to work for yourself and go support yourself or your ministry, maybe your spouse's ministry. How are you going to be able to do that? Well, Bryan is one of those guys who has done that. I've had the privilege of doing that myself as well, although I wasn't supporting myself in the ministry, but I lived in Prague in the Czech Republic twice for 2 or 3 months at a time. One was 2.5 months, one was 3 months, and was able to support our family doing deals virtually while living in Europe with our 4 kids, my wife and our 4 kids. And I also had the privilege then of being in an RV for 3 months, doing real estate deals, traveling around the country, having a blast. And so this might resonate with you, this interview that we're going to do. If you got something burning in your heart, you're like, man, I want to raise enough money to support myself in the mission field. Maybe you want to go serve somewhere and you're like, I don't know how to do that. And it's hard to raise money as a missionary. Well, what if you found a way, like Bryan has, to start a business? Maybe it's a marketing agency, maybe it's real estate or something that can support you and your ministry going forward. All right. So long kind of story to why I wanted to do this podcast with Bryan. Let's bring him on. Is that okay? Can we do that? All right. Bryan Citrin, how are you, my man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Joe.
Well, thanks for being here. I love this book. I just finished it a few days ago because you don't live a boring life, man. I don't want to say living on the edge, but like you've got so much faith and expectance, and you just expect God to do awesome things. And you've got an amazing story of things that have really kind of that have happened to you because you've stepped out in faith and you've gone out and you've done these crazy things. And you're going to share some of these stories here. But I want to make sure we tie this all back into, like, some people, how do I say this? Like, God has given a vision in a lot of people's lives to live a great life. Like, and you guys out there listening to this podcast, you feel called to some pretty amazing things, and you don't know how to make the money to support the vision that you might have for your life. And so I want to kind of frame this whole context of this interview of the Wild Expectance book for the entrepreneur in who's out there thinking, man, I want to be able to do what God's called me to do and then not have to raise support and be able to support my own ministry with, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's different entrepreneurship, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's online digital marketing and things like that. So you've done a real good job of that. And you only spent the last chapter kind of talking about it. Maybe there's a part 2 out there. Okay. But it's really good. So cool. Bryan, talk about your story a little bit here. How did you came from a kind of a rough background. I'm good friends with one of your cousins, and who we know very, very well, good friend of our family here. And talk a little bit about your story of what were you doing, and what got you kind of interested in the ministry. And then I want to ask you some questions about some of the things you were doing in California and Haiti and stuff like that.
Sure. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Entrepreneurship. Not that you need a degree in that, but it really felt cool. I was the president of the Entrepreneurship Association. I had just got done writing a 65-page business plan with a friend of mine from college. And so as long as I can remember, I was really into entrepreneurship. I was really into business. And I remember I'm in college and I'm about to graduate, and I'm praying about what I should do. And I sensed that it wasn't the path that I was on, right? Not that business was wrong, and I always had a desire for business, but I felt that God was speaking to me and really pivoting me, at least for a season, to do something different. And I remember I called my brother, and I was talking to my brother about this, and I really sensed that God wanted me to move out to Los Angeles and work with a campus ministry out there at UCLA, the University of California, Los Angeles. That's actually the most applied to university in the country.
Wow.
But I did not know that at the time. I didn't really know much about UCLA. All I knew was that my brother had been really impacted by this campus pastor, and he moved to Los Angeles to help pioneer this ministry. And as I was praying, a conversation that I had over the summer kind of came back to me. And I was talking to my brother's mentor, and he said that he could teach me so much about business if I just moved to Los Angeles and gave him like a year of ministry, and I could learn a lot. And so this thought came back to me as I was praying at church, and I called my brother and told him I had a problem because I did not want to do this. And I said, I think that God wants me to move to Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities in the world, and basically work for free, raise a budget. Like, it's crazy. I don't want to do this. And my brother's like, if God's calling you to do that, you got to go ahead and call the campus pastor and let him know. And I didn't really know this person. And so I picked up the phone and I called him, and he answered. And that was a big deal because he's usually in meetings, and he's can be hard to get a hold of, but he's really administrative in terms of he'll always call you back. And he answered, and I said that I believe that God wanted me to move to LA and do an internship with him. And he says, Bryan, you called me at the right time. And it wasn't like an audible voice. It was like this inner thought that I had that wouldn't go away, that I really sensed that God was speaking to me, because God can speak to us through our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
God can speak to us through ideas. And I remember everything was official, and I'm talking to him, and I told him that it was on the bottom of my list for things to do to move out to Los Angeles and work with him. And he says, Bryan, you weren't even on my list. He said, I don't remember offering you an internship. And there's been a ton of people that have asked to do an internship with me in the last year and a half, and I turned them all down. But I was driving on the 405 highway by myself, about to go on a week-long fast, and the Spirit of God spoke to me and told me that I was going to get an unexpected phone call. And pretty much the answer better be yes. And Bryan, you called me in less than like 5 minutes. In minutes, you called me. And so here I was praying for direction in Missouri, and here he was praying in Los Angeles, and God brought us together. And that's how I started my journey. And I started raising support, and I started raising it from untraditional ways. I was reaching out to friends and family, but really I had started a business basically of selling stuff on the road, touring rock festivals, and kind of making money that way. And it was
not much money either, by the way.
Yeah, not much money, but I was trying. And this was back before really it was a lot easier to make money online back then. And so, but it was hard, and I was a lot of struggling.
So what were some of the things that, because your entrepreneur journey, this is a book about the journey God brought you on, but it's also a very entrepreneur book. You talk a lot about some of the businesses that you started and the things that you had a lot of, I don't want to say failures, but like businesses, ventures that did not go well, did not make you a ton of money, but God was using that in the journey, right? As you
Yeah,
learn more and more about things. Talk about what
absolutely.
were some of the things that you were selling in some of these businesses that you were starting?
My first business, I was 8 years old. I was selling rocks. I was selling
Rocks.
rocks to people in the school. I grew up in a tourist town, and so there was these local tourist shops that would sell polished rocks, and they would shut down for the winter. And I remember one of them, I would go in there and buy a lot of inventory at half off. So I buy all these really fancy rocks at half off, and then I would go sell them on the school bus, sell them at school. I remember I even took my rocks and went to the product and service show in town and walk from booth to booth, hustling my rocks to vendors at this trade show. And so I had it in me. And then I started selling candy, and then eventually I started a vending machine business at 14. I had gumball machines. I even had one in the trade school right next to my school. And I got basically in my high school, because it was a trade school and all the high school students took classes there. So basically in the high school, I had a gumball machine. And then I started a t-shirt company at 16. And it was really the t-shirt company that I started that positioned me to be able to tour rock festivals with a competitor that I'd met at a festival.
Yeah.
And then through that, I started selling like legal insurance, which taught me how to talk to strangers, taught me how to prospect really, really well. And then, of course, no college experience would be complete if you didn't donate plasma at least once. So I donated plasma in college.
I never did that.
You know,
I was very, very broke in college, but I never donated plasma, so I can't say I can relate. But
yeah,
all right.
it paid rent. It paid rent. And then eventually, when I graduated, I went out to basically work for free and raise support. But then I started touring rock festivals, selling glow sticks at these music festivals across the country. And people could, make fun of me saying, "Oh, you're selling glow sticks, right?" But I'd laugh all the way to the bank, because
Were you
I made more that summer than like my friends that had internships at like prestigious investment firms. So it's like, I made more in a month and a half than they made selling
That's
glow sticks.
fascinating.
And I got to go on vacation basically all summer, touring rock festivals and rock climbing and visiting awesome sites. So
Yeah, you're a big avid rock climber, and you would go with your friends climbing rocks when the concerts weren't going on.
yeah,
That's cool. All right, so you graduate from college, you go to UCLA, and you go into the ministry, and you're basically going to work for free. You were living hand to mouth, weren't you, for a couple years? I mean, you were doing pretty awesome things with this campus ministry, but it was really hard to raise support, wasn't it?
it's hard. It's very difficult. And you feel like you're begging, you're going around, and it's just something, it's really humbling, a very humbling experience, but it really gives you grit.
Huh.
It gives you grit. It makes you really humble yourself. Any pride that's in you, you're able to basically, lay that down. You have to be humble. But really, because of that, I got to meet a lot of really cool people, a lot of really dynamic entrepreneurs and people who I wouldn't have met otherwise through this process, some of which I'm still friends with today, successful entrepreneurs. But it was really after, battling through all this that I knew there had to be a better way. And I remember we would take trips down to Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the world. I've been there 28 times. And I remember I'm walking around in the streets of Haiti looking at the devastation. And I was just thinking to myself, there has to be a better way to make money and make an impact. There has to be a better way. And because like I'm trying to raise money to go down here, and I'm seeing like there might be a mother of 8 living in a one-room hut. And maybe that hut didn't always have a roof. And the mother has to choose between sending her kid to school or buying food. And maybe the mother can only send that kid to school this year. The next year they send a different kid to school. And then the next year it's a different kid to school. And then that's how you have a 23-year-old with a 3rd grade education.
Yeah, this part of the book broke my heart because, you're down there helping. And there were some simple needs that people had there. They needed some help starting a business where they make coal. to
Mhm.
sell, right? Or they needed help just fixing their motorcycle. And you you were down there, you were broke yourself. Like, and you didn't have much money, and they didn't need a lot of money. They just needed a little bit to fix things or to buy things. And you, you were down there, not as broke as they were, but almost. Like, you didn't have much. You barely had enough money to fly down there. You were living just like they were in a lot of situations, right? And what broke my heart was like, man, here's Bryan going down there, sometimes not even knowing how he's going to get back, right? Hoping that the support that he's been raising from people is going to help him pay his ticket to get there and to get back. These little needs that, I'm not talking thousands of dollars, I'm talking like $5, $10. Like, people needed these things to support their families and whatever, right? And Bryan, at the time, didn't even have the funds, but what you were giving to them was so much more valuable
Mhm.
in the sense, right? You
Yeah.
were sharing the gospel with them. You were encouraged, and the stories you tell in that book of some of these people um, that were in spite of you having the financial resources to give to them, like, God was still using you in an amazing way to change tons and tons of lives there. Does that make sense? And I'm reading this thinking, man, me, who has, like, I have money, I can help ministries and missionaries like that. What a huge need, what a huge opportunity there are for people like me. Maybe we're not called to full-time ministry in the mission field, but we can support and help people like Bryan who are there. Like, what if I would have known you back then, and how much money I could have given to your ministry back then to do some amazing, amazing things. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I knew that a lot of missionaries, they weren't really good at telling stories. They weren't really good at really sharing the impact, but they're making such a huge impact. And I would see the impact. And I knew. We knew people who died from treatable causes. I remember one time a kid was begging me for $5 to go to English school. And I'm like, I literally gave everything that I have away. I literally wiped out my bank account for that month, went down there, we helped as many people as we could, and they come up to me on the last day, and I'm like, sorry, I don't have $5, which is, it's crazy, it gave me a real conviction that, I have to share the vision in a greater measure, but also it gave me conviction to make money, because I'm like, maybe if I could go out there and make a bunch of money, then I can help not only people in Haiti, but around the world, and not only give them a short-term handout, but I'm really passionate about investing in economic development and equipping and empower these people in their own countries, in their own communities, to be successful, like starting that coal business for one, starting the motorcycle business where they're driving around motorcycles as like a taxi, and empowering and equipping people in their own country. If they're starving, you need to provide finances, to like give them food and stuff, right? But you also have to provide a long-term sustainable solution. And that's where economic development comes in. And that's where investing in education comes in and sending kids to school. But the problem is, like a mother, maybe at least in Haiti, school's not free. So you have to pay to go to school. But if you don't have a job, you don't have money to pay for your kids to go to school, but you don't have a job because you don't have an education because no one had money to go to school. So it's like the cycle. And so we were able to intervene in there and help these kids and help these different communities and help different to-be entrepreneurs fend for themselves, where you're feeding them momentarily so they survive, but then you're investing in a future that's sustainable. That you, for example, the motorcycle or the coal business. We were able to give him the money to start the coal business. It was like $400. But then because of that, he was able to hire another person, and he's able to invest in some livestock, and so much more was able to come out of that because we were able to help this person. But it was like $400. It's like I paid more than $400 before for a meal for like a group of friends at a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
And we waste more than $400 just in random stuff, in a month, depending upon, what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so it was really convicting. And I had gotten involved in digital marketing because a friend of mine from college started a digital marketing agency. But and I was doing business development, but just really wasn't working out. And so I remember walking in the village there, thinking, how can I make a bigger impact? And I was talking to a friend of mine, a mentor, and he said, you should start your own agency. And I really sensed that God was leading me that direction. And my parents are chiropractors. My uncle's a chiropractor. And I learned that my dad owned chiropracticadvertising.com. And so I decided that I was going to make a brand around that. And I went back to Missouri, and I asked my uncle if I could help run ads for his practice. And from there, it was successful. And then he referred me to someone else, and they referred me to someone else. And then I started running my own ads. And before I knew it, I had a nationwide client base of chiropractors that I've been able to work with and help. And I learned that it's a lot easier to sell advertising to a doctor than it is to raise a fraction of the amount of money from somebody.
Yeah,
And
I want to read this. This is the last chapter of your book. And it says here, when I started my business, I discovered that it was easier to get a chiropractor to pay my company thousands of dollars a month than to get a business person to support my mission work for hundreds of dollars a month. It was easier to get a successful chiropractor to direct deposit $55,000 into my company account than it was to get a successful business person to deposit $5,500 into our Haiti missions account. That much needed $55,000 came right after I had just gotten back from one of my many trips to Vietnam. I took 7 mission trips abroad that year and spent nearly 25% of the year as a missionary in Southeast Asia. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, I couldn't have afforded all of this if I didn't have a successful business. I may have been able to fundraise for 1 or 2 trips, but certainly not 6 transatlantic flights in addition to a flight to Haiti. When I became a missionary, I learned that hearing from God wasn't as difficult as I thought. Um, I could go on and on there, but like, um, you've had some incredible stories of being on the mission field, God using you to do some amazing things. And you can't even give a kid, was it $4,
like
$5,
$5,
$5 to go to English school? Was that for like a
like a month.
month? Okay. Like, how heartbreaking is that? And there's so many people out there. I know missionaries in parts of Europe who are struggling every single month to make any money. And they're always worried and fearful and scared that they're going to have to go back home and give up their ministry so that they can, get a job again. It's so hard to raise money. But what if people could learn how to make money virtually, maybe even while they're in Vietnam or Haiti, as long as you can get good internet access there, right? But what if there is a way you could build a business that supports the ministry that you're feeling called to do? This is what got me so excited and why I wanted you on this podcast. Now, before we go much further down there, I want you to tell the story of MC Hammer and the American Music Association, the AMA Awards or something. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the American Music Awards.
All right. Will you tell that story? This is really, really cool.
It's such a long story. It takes 2 chapters, but I'll try to recap it really, really well. So one of my first years out in Los Angeles, I got connected to somebody who booked all the hotels for the American Music Awards, and he would work with really big artists for like their tours. And so he hired me to basically put together a spreadsheet for Rihanna's tour when Rihanna was getting big. And I really didn't know who Rihanna was, to be honest, but she's like one of the most famous music artists out there in terms of number of sales, in terms of her albums. And so it's a huge deal. And so through this process, this guy starts giving me VIP tickets to the American Music Awards. And one year he tells me that MC Hammer is closing out the show because he booked all the hotels. So he had to book MC Hammer's hotel. And so he tells me where he's staying at. And I had a desire to meet MC Hammer because I knew MC Hammer was also a person of faith. I knew he was a Christian. I was a Christian. And I knew that one of his friends who he mentored happened to do campus ministry years previously at UCLA. So I'm like, okay, if MC Hammer is a Christian and one of his people who he's mentored did campus ministry at UCLA, and I'm at UCLA doing campus ministry now, maybe he'll like me. But I'm like, how am I going to get to meet this guy? And so I prayed with my friend just for the opportunity to somehow meet him, but we didn't know how. And through this process, God had directed us. There was like 20 things that had to happen.
Yeah, you list these in the book, and it's fascinating.
And it's so improbable.
Yeah.
But somehow we get into the after party.
Which is VIP of the VIPs.
Yeah. So I get into the VIP section of the VIP after party. Yes. And somehow the guy that gets me into the after party is the person who's with the person who put on the event.
And this is the guy who did he go to the same school as you or from the same city?
Well, he was from Missouri, and he used to party in Lake of the Ozarks.
Yes.
And I used to be like a runner and a cook at this restaurant. And I told him I was from Lake of the Ozarks. He says the name of this prominent bar there. And I'm like, well, that was my first job. And he's like, this is my guy. You know, back in his formative years, he used to party at Lake of the Ozarks. And now he lives in Los Angeles and is like this high up.
And this is the main guy who lets the VIPs of the VIPs in the after party.
His boyfriend put on the after party. I didn't know that. And he's like, but this guy's also like a big deal. And so and I'm there with a friend of mine. So he thinks I'm there with my boyfriend, but really I'm just there with my friend. And so he gets me in there. He was a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. We get into the after party, and then we get into the VIP section of the after party. And then eventually I decided to go to dance floor break dance because, you know, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And then through that process, I saw MC Hammer actually happened to be at the party. And so I approached him and I asked him if he knows this other person that I was acquainted with that used to do ministry at UCLA. And he looks at me and his countenance changes. He says, yeah, he's family. And he's like, look, he's calling me now. He picks up his phone and literally in that moment, he's calling him. And he's like, here, you answer it. And he hands me the phone. And I'm like, MC Hammer just handed me his phone. But it's like super loud in the Ritz-Carlton ballroom. So I have to like run out the door to actually hear him. And now I'm probably thinking, you know, he's probably thinking this guy just took off my phone. And so through that process, you know, I helped get his friend into the after party and help coordinate where the location was. And through that process, I like become part of the entourage for the night. And people are like stopping us to take photos, and he's handing me the phone to take the photos. And then my friend who drove me to the American Music Awards, he had to leave. And this was a time before Uber and Lyft. And so I didn't have a ride home. I really didn't have money for a cab. And I've never even, you know, hailed a cab at that point in place in my life. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not leaving. I wanted to meet MC Hammer, and now I'm hanging out with him. So I'm going to stick around and I'll figure it out. And then everyone leaves, and then I don't know how I'm getting home, but I'm still with MC Hammer, and he's about to leave. And I'm like, hey, you're staying at this hotel, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you mind if I catch a ride with you over there? I live near there. and he drives me home. Basically, his driver, it's me and his driver and him and maybe his bodyguard and I think his son were in the vehicle. And so we drive over there, and then he has his driver drive me back to my place. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is really crazy.
Crazy story. And this was it's a famous time, the American Music Award. He closed the show with that Gangnam Style guy.
Yeah, Psy. You know, the Korean phenomenon, which his video went on to break YouTube's algorithm. That's how big of a deal it was. It was like the first video to like break 2.some billion, I think is what it was. And then it was crazy. And he closed the show with him.
Weren't you sitting like in the first 5 or 10 rows on the right-hand side or something?
I was on the right. It wasn't the first 5 or 10 rows, but it was, you know, it was middle close, but it was close. You could see people.
Yeah.
It was close steering. I was in the VIP section. Is what I'm saying. Like during commercial breaks, I could walk up to the stage and stuff, but that wasn't what mattered about the night. That was really, really cool. And that was a really fun experience. And I believe that if you trust God, he can lead you into these fun, exciting experiences. So sure, God got me into the American Music Awards. Sure, I was able to get into the after party. Sure, I was able to meet MC Hammer. And sure, he was able to drive me home. It was really, really cool. But like, it's bigger than that. It's not just about me having a really cool experience. I get home and I'm really hungry and I really feel like I need to walk to this taco truck, get some food. And so I'm walking down to this taco truck in this
in a bad area of town.
Yeah, it's not a good area.
Super late at night.
Yeah, my friends were telling me later, hey, what are you doing? That's really dangerous. And this guy walks by me and I have this thought that I need to help this man. And he didn't look homeless. And I'm like, he's walking around past midnight. He might be thinking, who's this guy? Well, who am I walking around past midnight, right? And so I have this thought that I need to give him the little bit of money I had in my wallet. And so I was given $100, I think, for my birthday recently that I was going to use for utilities. And so I was hesitant because I didn't want to give the money. I wanted to keep the money. But, I sensed that God wanted me to give him this little bit of money that I had in my wallet. So I stop and I'm already about 10 feet past the guy. I turn around and says, hey, how are you doing financially? And the guy says, fine. And I'm thinking, okay, great. I dodged a bullet. But I'm like, no, I have to do this. And so I pull out the money and I give him this $100 bill. And he looks at me and he starts breaking down. And you could tell he had a very real need. Through this process, I'm able to pray with him. He was able to give his life to God. And he became a Christian, and really powerful things happened in that moment that I talk about in the book. Really powerful things that happened. I don't have time to talk about that right now. But after that moment of me praying with him and helping him, I'm walking to the taco truck still, pondering, thinking about this whole experience, thinking how crazy the night's been, thinking about the 20 things that had to happen for MC Hammer to drive me home. And I had this very strong thought that came to me, and was God speaking to me. It wasn't audible. The voice of God can come as a sudden awareness followed by a unique conviction. So in that moment, I just knew God was speaking to me. And he said that was nothing in terms of all those things that had to happen for MC Hammer to drive me home. But that was something regarding meeting the need of this man.
Yeah.
Past midnight, giving him the $100, praying with him. In God's eyes, that was something. But that was nothing. And how that relates to our life and our business is, I believe that God wants to bless us, and that God wants to lead us on incredible, extravagant, amazing experiences and amazing journeys.
Yeah.
And give us really fun experiences. But that's not the big picture. In God's eyes, the most important thing is us being led by him and helping those around us and being able to hear his voice and be a blessing to those in need. Because I don't know that guy's story. I've never seen him since then.
Yeah.
But who knows what would have happened to him later that night if that didn't happen. And God loves him just as much as he loved me. And maybe because of that obedience of me blessing this man, maybe that guy went out to do great things in the world. And maybe he didn't kill himself, or maybe he didn't there's a lot of things that could have happened. Maybe that gave him just the amount of money he needed just to take care of these things. And you don't know the ripple effect that could totally transform his life. But God saw that need. Whether someone's in the small village of Haiti or whether someone's like a millionaire or billionaire, God sees you, and God wants to help you and bless you, and he wants you to not only take care of your needs, but he wants you to meet the needs of others.
That's so good.
And yeah, so
this is why you call the book Wild. My focus. There you go. Wild Expectance. Start living your life how God designed it. And this book is full of those kinds of stories where you think, oh, cool, MC Hammer, but there was a reason why you were there. And he wanted to show you he cares about the little guy just as much as he cares about the big guy. And when we're obedient and we follow that still small voice of go do this, give your money to this guy, do this or that, great things, amazing things will happen. And really, meeting MC Hammer, being a VIP at the AMAs or whatever, that's not the big thing. The big thing was what happened later, walking to the taco truck late at night, and you met some guy and changed his life, and who knows what happened even after that. Cool. I love these stories, and this book is full of them. It's so cool. It's so cool. Now, talk about the business that you have. You do digital marketing for chiropractors. and
Yes.
talk about how you got into that and what it is that you do there, and how does that support, your ministry today and the mission work that you're doing still.
Sure. So we have online sales funnels for chiropractors, and we even like working with very niche doctors, like even doctors that like service people with neuropathy, which is like nerve pain. And what we do is we run online ads through social media like Facebook, Instagram, but even like Google or TikTok or YouTube or whatever the channel you want to use is. And we target people with pain, and then we send them through a funnel process where the lead comes in and they schedule online on the doctor's calendar. And then there's a series of text messages and emails that go out to really maximize the likelihood of them showing up. And we provide coaching and training to the doctor's staff to make sure that their staff is equipped to help these people that are coming in. And we've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country.
Hmm.
But even more than that, I'm really excited about this next season, about not just the book, but I have another brand called leadflows.com. And because a lot of people would come to me and they say, "Hey, Bryan, you do that for chiropractors. That's really cool. You got this HIPAA compliant software that makes sure that the patient's information is safe. But we need that same kind of technology for our church, or we need this technology for the local, realtor or whoever, right? Or the nonprofit or the coach." And so we have this technology, leadflows.com, which allows us to really, really help a more broad audience,
Yeah.
and not just chiropractors. And because you don't just need a sales funnel, you need a lead flow.
Mm-hmm.
And even in context to how the book flows into all that stuff. And so we've been doing that, but I'm excited about not just helping doctors, but being way more broad, as we release the book and as more people read the book, and how can we help those people, launch a business or step out or do something powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So you created a digital marketing agency that helps chiropractors and specialty doctors. Explain that a little bit, because that might be a foreign concept to somebody. I mean, these chiropractors are good at helping people with pain, adjustments, alternative sources of health and wellness and all of that, which, by the way, our mutual friend and family member, Jeff Citrin, what's going on? He's watching us. He just commented here, most excellent. He's one of the chiropractors that Bryan does marketing for, and one of my chiropractors that I go to. But anyway, there's a need out there, isn't there? And one of the things that I love about this, how you've stumbled upon this, is you found a problem, you found a need, and you said, "Man, I can solve that," and you can start charging money, a lot of good money, for that kind of marketing, right? So you saw a need where chiropractors are good at their practice, but they're not good at getting new customers. Right? You had studied digital marketing. You knew what a funnel was. You knew how to do ads. And talk about, how did you stumble across this opportunity, and how or why did you stumble across the opportunity? Because you were looking for it, right?
Yeah. Well, there's someone that's already gone ahead of you. Whatever your dream or your vision is, there's someone who's gone ahead of you. Like, for example, real estate. You're the real estate guru. If I want to go invest in real estate, you're the go-to guy. So you find out, what do you want to do? And you find someone who's already making money at that, and you pay them money to do it. And so that's what I did. I knew that my parents were chiropractors. I knew that my uncle was a chiropractor. I knew that I had this asset, chiropracticadvertising.com, but I didn't know how to leverage it. And so what I did was I went and I found people that already went before me that were already making money in this, and I paid them to show me how to do it, right? And that circumvented all the trial and error, and was able to really expedite the process. And then when I was having problems, I had a coach that could guide me through the process, and he really, really helped me. And so I paid more in digital marketing strategy and online coaching than in my 4-year college degree, right? And so it is so important that you invest in education.
Yeah.
And I know you yourself, Joe, invest a lot of money in education to be as elite as possible. So whenever somebody would hire someone like a Joe McCall or take your program, they're not just getting the expertise you bring, but they're getting the compound effects of all of the courses that you've taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that. And so I was able to hire people that have won these prestigious marketing awards so they could teach me how to win that award myself, which I did.
You did. You won the Double Comma Club Award, which is an award that ClickFunnels gives away to people who build a funnel or multiple funnels for one campaign, whatever, and sell at least $1 million in products or services, which you did, which is phenomenal, just incredible. Was that how long did it take you to get that Double Comma Club Award?
It took me. It wasn't like an overnight thing. It took me. It took me a handful of years to do it. But also remember, I wasn't doing this full time. I'm doing this like part time. I'm like in Haiti, and I'm like doing campus ministry, and I'm traveling all around the world. And I would joke about this. I don't claim this over myself anymore, but I used to say that I was being an absentee entrepreneur. Where like I'm like doing this thing part time, where really I'm doing the missionary work. But even with that, it's like I was abroad 7 times in 2019, right before COVID happened. Right, 25% of the time I was in Haiti or in Vietnam. I mean, and I got someone to give me 55 grand directly deposit into my bank account. Right, part time after I just got back from literally speaking at a bunch of churches, like focusing on serving people, and so it's.
Can you share a little bit of details about like how much money was your company grossing a year or a month doing the digital marketing services for chiropractors that you were?
The numbers are different now than what it used to be because like I'm in this pivoting stage, but
I'm talking about back then.
I would say 30s, 40s. I think that month, I think I brought in like 85,000 that month, I think, but like, mid 30s, mid 40s.
Obviously you had overhead, you had a team.
Yeah.
You had some of that went to ads, paid ads and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I wasn't even spending a lot on paid ads. And so I had a team and I was investing a lot of it back in. I was sowing it into my church. I was really, helping a lot of people with this.
So I'm going to put some context to this then. So like if you're a missionary in Haiti or Vietnam, and you're not staying at the Holiday Inn Express in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Is that a city in Haiti? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the capital. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're not staying at a Holiday Inn Express there. How much does a missionary, a single guy, need to survive every month and be effective in their ministry? Can you give us some context here?
In Haiti?
Yeah.
I've seen a variety of budgets, but let's just say $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Let's throw that number in. Okay. It's very easy to generate $5,000 a month in digital marketing sales. It's very, very easy to do that if you know what you're doing.
And how hard is it to raise $5,000 a month in donations?
Extremely hard, extremely difficult, right? I've made more in a single week just closing deals than I made in years, of trying to raise support in terms of monthly revenue. In terms of monthly, I remember one time I was like, if I can just get to $2,000 a month when I was living in Los Angeles, I remember I was like, if I can just get to $2,000 a month and I haven't made, then I can do this mission work, but yeah, I have, I've had clients that my average client is like that or more, for a single client monthly.
So if you learn digital marketing and that range is, I'm going to break this down a little bit. That could be building websites, building funnels and campaigns. So like when somebody goes to a website, they opt in to get something, so then there's a sequence of emails that go after that. They get added into a database like lead flows that you have. But it's also maybe some Facebook marketing, Instagram, maybe some Google pay-per-click ads. And your feed is not including their ad spend.
Correct. Right? Correct.
So like if they want to spend $5,000 a month on ads on Google PPC or Facebook ads or whatever, that's extra.
Yeah.
But you're just charging a management fee for managing and running this. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many chiropractor clients would you need to make $5,000 a month?
We charge a variety of prices, and so I've had clients that have paid me $4,000 a month before. I've had clients that are paid $3,500 a month, $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month. And so it just depends. And I know that when I started off, I was starting off very, very low, and I slowly started raising my prices over time, But like literally, like on average, you could have 3 clients that are paying, let's just say $1,500 a month. Okay, 3 clients plus ad spend. That's not a lot of work once you have it dialed in. Not a lot of work. And it could literally finance your entire admissions budget that you're doing every single month. And the key though is you gotta get skills. You gotta make sure it works, right? The key is you gotta get skills to make sure it works, and you gotta make sure they're making money, because it's not a matter of cost of, oh, that's how much it costs. But if someone's paying you that amount of money and you're making them a significant amount of money, it's nothing. I remember the person that paid me $55,000. His first 45 days with me, he made over $45,000.
Almost made his money back.
In his first 45 days, he made like over 45,000 with over half of it paid up front. And so when you're delivering those kinds of results, it's not them finding a budget for it. It's them budgeting from the increased revenue that you make them.
I paid a guy one time $5,000 to get on the phone with him for half an hour. It turned into an hour. But that $5,000, that little conversation that I had with him, I mean, I don't want to brag too much, but I made a lot more money than that. 7 figures plus, right? From that one call with that guy. So that's a really good point. You need to be able to make sure you can deliver on those results. It's the same with real estate, guys. If you want to go into the mission field, you need to just make $5,000 a month. You can support a family of 3 or 4 people very, very comfortably in a poor country for just $5,000 a month. But let's say, you have other ministry expenses that you want to do and provide, and food and medical supplies and things like that. So you need to make $10,000 a month. You know how hard it is to raise $10,000 a month from fickle. And one of the oh my gosh, I was convicted by this, Bryan. You talked about this, like how difficult it is when a missionary promises you, or like, no, as a missionary, you're back home, you're raising support, and somebody verbally promises to you that they will send you a certain amount of money every month. And then they don't, or they forget, or they do it for a little bit and then they stop. The person who promises that, they have no idea how, talk about this. I'm putting words in your mouth. But like, that is not very nice at all.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult in terms of like, because you have a budget, you're expecting the money, and it might not even be a lot of money. Maybe it's $50 a month, which is like nothing, right? But if you're relying on that $50 a month and they don't send it in, you feel like you're like a debt collector when you're going there and asking for it. So it's awkward, but you're kind of like, well, I was budgeted this. We need this. We have rent. We have this. Back whenever I was trying to raise money, as I said, like, I'm living in Los Angeles, and I just thought in my early 20s, if I can just get to $2,000 a month, then I'm really made, and I can survive as a missionary, right? And so it's not a lot of money, but and so sometimes, because it's not a lot of money to us, we don't feel like it's a lot of money to them.
But it's a lot of money to that missionary.
In those situations, it is a lot of money, and it could be like it could be devastation in terms of, it could be they can or can't pay their bills. I remember I had to put my student loans on deferment because I legitimately did not have the money to do that, that was a very difficult season. And I'm so glad I'm not in that season anymore, regarding like the amount of lack of knowledge that I had in online marketing, and regarding, just struggling. But I learned so much, and I learned so much about my faith and the ability to trust in God and to hear the voice of God for myself. And I take those stories and I really share them and take people on a journey with Wild Expectance, so they don't necessarily have to live through the difficulty that I lived through. But what they can do is they can remember those stories that I tell, and those stories alone can give them the faith to keep persevering. Those stories can build in them the confidence that God has their back. If God was able to have my back, he's able to have your back. But even some of the stories in Haiti, like I share the story about this Haitian pastor and about how God did these incredible things for the Haitian pastor. And it's so convicting, because I'm like, okay, God, if God can intervene for this guy, like in the middle of COVID, in ways that I've never seen before in Haiti, then what can't he do?
Yeah.
What can't he do in my life where this guy literally has no resources and is able to have this entire complex built?
Yeah.
And no Americans have ever been there. It's just crazy.
God,
That
so
okay,
good.
there's so much opportunity in America. There's money laying around everywhere you look. There's money. Everywhere you look is dollar signs of money. And the question is, how much money do you want and how fast do you want to pick it up? Some people, they want to pick up money with chopsticks. Some people want to pick up money with a teaspoon, some, tablespoon, some maybe a handful of time. Other people, they'll use a crane to grab it. It just depends on, it's everywhere. It's just learning how do you use a crane. A lot of people, in school, they teach you to use chopsticks, basically, or teach you to use teaspoons, getting money, clocking in, clocking out, trading your time for money. But you never trade time for money. You trade value for money. You never trade time for money. You trade value for money, and you get skills. You learn how to add value, and you add value to other people, and they'll pay you for that, and you'll transform lives.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, I'm thinking of so many things while you're talking here. Like number one, I believe God has blessed us as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, as real estate investors to be a blessing to others, to support the missionaries out there that need help, right? But also if you're a missionary and you want to be out in the mission field and you feel like God's called you to bigger and greater things and you're thinking, how am I going to raise support? There's missionaries listening to this video right now or this podcast right now and thinking, it's a never ending, frustrating battle to raise money. Well, what if you could start a business and raise your own support doing real estate investing, selling digital marketing? There's 100 things you could do. There's so much opportunity there. One time I looked at my stats, Bryan, and this podcast, Real Estate Investing Mastery, that I've been doing since 2011. So 12 years now. I've had listeners in over 170 different countries listen to this podcast. I think there's like 185 countries.
That's incredible.
I looked at my stats and it can show you which countries download podcasts. And I counted them up. It was 170, maybe 160. I don't remember the number, but it was just insane. There is so much opportunity now in the world today to make money. I believe God has blessed entrepreneurs to find creative ways to make money so that they can support themselves as missionaries. They can support other missionaries and stuff like that. That's awesome. I love it. And this book got me excited again, Wild Expectance, about how I can have a part in that. I can play a part in that by training and helping other people who want to be missionaries learn how to do real estate, how I can support other people who are being missionaries as well, and be faithful in my commitments. When I verbally tell them, hey, I'm going to give you money every month, I better do it, because that's like a serious offense if you say you can do it or you're going to do something and you don't. Anyway, we got to wrap this up.
And there's a huge blessing that comes with that. There's a huge
yeah.
blessing that comes with obedience. And I talk about the practicality of that.
Yeah. I want all the blessing I can get, right? Because I need as much help as I can get. Bryan, when does this book, I don't know if it's been officially released yet. Has it been?
So it comes out February 21st, but I recommend you go on to Amazon right now and you pre-order it. Wild Expectance is on pre-order on Amazon, and it's the journey it took me to write this book is a book in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should. There's so much more we could talk. You met your fiance, because of this book, right? You sent her a letter.
I didn't really know her that well. You knew her better than I did at that time. And she was close friends with my cousin. And I texted her and I wanted her to look at the book to see if it had female appeal, because I know women read books more than men do. And I wanted to market to the buying demographic of books. And well, it turns out it does, because now we're engaged.
Yeah. Her name is Chelsea. She's amazing. And it's so funny that how God brings that, because she was, you got an amazing story. Maybe that's another podcast or another time. I'd love to have Chelsea on the podcast. She's an entrepreneur as well. She's done some pretty amazing things.
I'm sure she'd love to be on it.
Yeah. Well, man, I could talk even more about this book. I feel like we barely scratched the surface. It's coming out in a couple, 3-4 weeks from when we're recording this now. You do have a website. I'm not sure it's up and running yet, but it will.
Wildexpectance.com. You can get it there, but Go to Amazon, pre-order on Amazon, get the book. It'll change your life. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Great book. It gets you excited about living for God and supporting people like Bryan who are living for God in the mission field. So it got me excited about supporting other missionaries, supporting people that were like you, living on faith with barely any money, not knowing where your food's going to come from, not knowing where your rent's going to come from, how you're going to get from A to Z because you don't have a car. Your moped is like, can't drive. You can't go 50 miles through LA freeways to get, like these stories you have. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I get to, God's blessed me with a lot of finances. I can bless other people like Bryan. Come on, let's do it. Let's go for it. It also reminded me of a book called The Blessed Life by Pastor Robert Morris. And it got me so excited about the privilege to give and to be generous to other people, because it has such a huge, massive ripple effect. When you're generous with your time and with your money, you can help other people. And then that person helps other persons. And then it goes on and ripples out from there. So whether you're the missionary doing the work like Bryan is doing, or you're the entrepreneur, business owner who's at home raising a family, and you can now have resources to support the missionaries, there's a part for everybody in all of this thing. And God's economy is so big and so diverse and so amazing. I'm excited that I get to play a little part in it. And I want to do it enthusiastically. I want to do it with wild expectance. And I want to start living my life like God designed it.
And I know there may be some people watching this that you're not a person of faith, or you come from a different faith background. I want to let you know that I've shared this book with countless people, and I've gotten testimonies from people who aren't even people of faith that have been inspired and impacted by this book. There is an entrepreneur. It has wide appeal.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me about a real estate investor.
Yeah, there's a real estate investor that we were both doing a TV show together, and I just thought that I should give him the book. And I had like an advanced review copy, and he sends me a video the next day. This guy built skyscrapers in New York. That's what he did. He built skyscrapers in New York, and now he takes entire forests regions and turns them into communities. It's incredible what he does. And he sent me a video of him crying after the book, after he read the book. And I got another video from somebody else that's definitely not a Christian. And they were really inspired and really impacted by the book. And I'm like, wow, this has a very, very broad appeal. And I'm encouraged that I was able to write a book that was going to have such a broad appeal.
Awesome. All right. Real quick, the link to the software that you have, Lead Flows, that is it's a great software that helps. You could take that software and use it for any business. It's a CRM management database that uses artificial intelligence and all the buzzwords today to, this is a software that you could turn around and use for your own business. You can sell to other businesses, but go to leadflows.com if you want to check that out. That's Bryan's project right now. The book is called Wild Expectance. Go to Amazon, pre-order it, order it. Soon when the website's available, go to wildexpectance.com. Thank you so much, Bryan, for being on the show. Appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much, Joe. I'm excited to come back and share some more stories with you.
Let's do it. Maybe after, or not even, we don't have to wait until you're married, but maybe we can get you and Chelsea on sometime soon and talk about the wild adventures you guys are going on.
She just wrote a book. Hey, she just wrote a book too. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's right. She goes through every letter of the alphabet talking about God's love or something like that.
Yeah, it's called For the Love of God. It's a powerful book. It'll be on Amazon soon.
Awesome. All right. Good. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, Bryan. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.